Hi, I'm Joshua Farley.
And I'm Marcus Soto.
And this is Inside Our Industry, where we share weekly insights on everything to do with the electric and solar industry, contracting, and best practices. I'll try not to talk over Marcus too bad, but my wife says that's my thing because I always talk over her.
It's not going to happen.
And she actually points out when I talk over other people too.
I was actually just talking.
Or were you talking and I was
see what
talking
happened right
over
there? I was talking and then you started talking. That's what I think. That's might be what your wife's talking about.
Or I don't know when. Right. That's always what it is. Like, or I don't know when that pause, how long that pause is. Like, because there's usually a pause, and that's when I'll jump in. But all right, let's take a look at some videos and some pictures we see online to get our reaction. So, first panel. Give me your worst. Ending the first year of my apprenticeship. Well, one, I don't know how many first years are usually doing anything like this, right. Just because they're still learning how to fucking swing a hammer or turn a wrench. I hate flex. Yeah. I don't mind it if we're going into the bottom of the panel, like from the transformer. I probably would have flexed into the bottom and then up, or I would have, LB and use some EMT depending on the situation. I wish they would give me a better picture. It looks like a 400 amp breaker.
So those one-hole straps on the wire inside the panel? That is what those are.
Those are one-hole straps inside. I didn't even see that yet. So this looks like at least a 400 amp breaker. He only looks like maybe a 200 amp rated feed, so he's definitely missing the mark there because this feed and this feed look very similar in size. This may be like a 250 or a 300. And that looks maybe a 4-aught. I don't know. I can't tell, but one-hole straps definitely no. Yeah. No. What is that? That's crazy.
This could have been a little cleaner with the 90s coming in. Could have been a little cleaner around the edges.
The more I look at this picture, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
So the more I look at this picture, maybe it does look like.
It looks like this is supposed to be parallel, like the parallel feeds.
Why did we bend around here? Why couldn't we get on this side? But you wouldn't have to. Yeah. If you had brought it in down here, you could have had a big loop for your feeds, but I don't know. It's hard to see with this picture. There's definitely some things that I would do different. And that would be, we would separate all of these wires on the side. Grounds would go in first and bundled together, then the neutrals bundled together, then the hots would be bundled together. So it'd be like 3 layers of bundle. So it's kind of like the access to the panel. Like we access the breaker wire first and then the neutrals and then the ground. Like that's kind of how I treat everything in electrical. When I'm taking something apart, I take the ground off last. I take the hot, we deal with the hot first. We turn it off, we test it, we pull the hot off, cap it as if it's hot. We always play, it's like a firearm, right? We always play with electricity like it's live. I don't know who your foreman was, but good on him to just throw you in there and delegate that work to be done, but he's got some cleaning up to do. A normal person might not even see anything. Once you put the cover on that, nobody will see it.
Honestly, for a first-year apprentice, like obviously there's some things that I would have done differently, and some things that I think could have been definitely done differently. But for a first-year apprentice, I think it's okay. It's not bad.
Come on in, fill out an application.
Yeah.
Number 2, arc fault nightmare panel. Homeowner roughed in their own house. Brother pissed off the inspector, and the homeowner didn't put the right circuits on.
You definitely don't want to piss off the inspector if you don't know what you're doing.
They obviously got a lot of arc fault breakers in there, and what happens is those arc fault or GFI breakers have a neutral that comes off them. Usually they have a little coil on them that keep them relatively neat. When you're doing, is this brand new? And you're right about the inspector. Like, if the inspector didn't have his Wheaties, you just looking at him funny might piss him off. And then you're arguing. It's not a good scenario. A lot of times, the inspectors aren't electrical contractors. They've never been an electrician. They work off of their own experience, and they don't get a lot of experience doing electrical. They kind of use them all over the board. So you have to educate the inspector. You have to be able to know what the codes are so you can tell him. And then if there's still an issue, call a supervisor. Don't be afraid to take it over his head because he doesn't know. They don't know everything. And there's a lot of times that this happened to us. I've built a relationship with the supervisor down at the cities because they need help.
And you're right. There is It happens all
I'm
the time.
going to talk over you.
Where we have to educate the inspectors on what's going on. And sometimes we even need to find what's going on in the NEC that tells the inspector that we're allowed to do what we're doing, or that what they're saying isn't relevant.
Rick was on a job the other day, ran his own cables, grid wires, so we could run our conduits on, because we're not allowed to strap to the grid wires that hold up the grid. So we have a separate electrical system run through, and the inspector's like, you can't run your own grid wires. I'm like,
if we run our own, we can.
Rick asked him kindly to call a supervisor and double check, and he got off the phone and was like, I'll see, here's your green tag. It's hard to find something right in here. So,
right.
Look at this white has been taped, which is great. Like, you want to identify that. I would have probably, and it's rubbing. It looks like it's close to rubbing on that can, where if that rubs on that metal, you're going to end up getting in that wire in the metal. But I would have run the neutral up on this side and just done a small loop. Same thing with the ground. I would bend to 90 degrees, bring it up. Same thing on both sides with the hots. A lot of wire nuts here. It looks like he didn't know how to handle his wire nuts for the arc fault. We take that neutral right to the neutral bar, and then the neutral from the circuit right to the breaker. The breaker is the one that's going to provide that trip. So what happens is the breaker's got a neutral on it. It's the new path for that circuit to go through. So the neutral comes back from the circuit to the breaker, and then it from the breaker to the neutral panel.
Honestly, it makes me think that it's wired wrong.
Just looking at it?
Just looking at the wire nuts, it makes me think that it's wired wrong.
Oh, 100% is definitely not right. Maybe they took all these wires and put them out here and wire net them to the circuit going out. It's hard to say. It's definitely a clusterfuck. There are a lot of different things in here. It's
a lot.
How many rooms is in that house? I wonder how.
What do we got on right here?
It looks like tape. It looks like they used orange tape. The same orange tape they have down here.
Oh, yeah.
So what they're doing is they're taking that neutral. The Romex has got 3 wires in it, right? So it's got the ground, the neutral, and the hot. So they're taking that. They're phasing the neutral to make it a 220 for this circuit.
Yeah.
Same thing with this one. So your washer dryers all here. But it looks like all they had was orange tape. Is that red? I don't know. It's almost red. It looks orange.
I like the phasing of this white up until about this point. and then it looks like used.
And then they got tired. We're impatient.
Yeah.
Hey Marcus, I wired my panel up to my house. I just need you guys to come over and approve it so I can get a city. Can you guys put your license on this?
Absolutely not.
Okay, but that being said, the homeowner did it. What would you give him? I mean, they don't know shit. Give him a grade.
1 out of 10 for the homeowner doing it because they don't know what they're doing.
Is that
I'd give him a 2.
That's an F. I mean, I'd give him at least a D. See, like, we're talking letter grade, right? Like,
okay.
I mean, he got wires on breakers.
See, but I feel like I can't trust nothing inside of that.
No.
Absolutely nothing.
No, you're going to have to go through and fix it all or redo it all.
And it's ugly.
But there's been times where people call us, say, I did it all, but the city needs a licensed electrician to prove it. Can you come out and we use your license? Like, well, I can come out and look at it, give you a bid. Typically, when on this, I'll come out and say, well, fortunately, we're going to have to take the whole thing apart and redo it. Almost looks like that's not even into the panel, I don't know. Like, we don't see the rest of it, but
right.
It's your house.
You're getting a 2 from me.
It's your house. You do what you want. Hopefully the home inspector finds that when he goes to sell it.
If that's our electrician,
fired. Unless that's his first year. Then it's his foreman's fired for letting him fucking in there.
All right.
All right, check out this old school panel I came across. Notice how the phases were arc fault. He also used a 30 space instead of a 40, plus multiple circuits wouldn't hold once arc faults were in place. So this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And he's judging the other person. So we've got somebody that really doesn't know what they're doing, talking about another person that doesn't know what they did. That knows less.
Yeah.
It's like the contractor at my house, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, and he's got an apprentice who he's showing how to do things. I'm like, so you're teaching him
how to do it wrong.
You're teaching him how to do it wrong. And that seems to be happening out there. I've never seen a panel like this.
I've never seen it either.
This looks like somebody manipulated this. So somebody built this. somebody built this to have these breakers in. Like this doesn't look like a manufacturer at all. You've got some wires up here. It looks like they're coming into these bus here. And then it looks like the breakers are tying onto the bus with the wire from the... So these are feed through... These look like pass-through breakers.
Pass-through breakers, yeah.
And it looks like they're passing through with wire on some of them. But then these
has
ones
a bar.
look like it's got bars in there. I can't tell it's a bad picture. This is fucking awful. We would replace that whole thing.
Replace it. Yep.
It doesn't look like there's a main breaker at all.
What is this? These are feeders coming in, just passing through. With some CTs, maybe? Some feeders passing through with some CTs in
unless they're clamping on that, trying to get that voltage like a crimp-on Polaris lug or something. Can't see any 2-pole breakers, so it's all going off of the one, the one leg.
Is this up here single phase? And then 3-phase down here?
Well, this looks like a 3... Oh, is that the breaker? Is this the main breaker? This yellow comes off into this bus. This black comes off into this bus. This black goes off into this bus.
Replace it.
Hey, whatever. These people post this shit online. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They post this. They go, hey, look at this picture. It's wrong. All right. Friendly reminder to always check all wires for clearance for panel screws. Could have been very bad. So first of all, let me tell you that the only screws you should be putting into a panel are the ones that come with the panel. We shouldn't always have to check for the clearance on a panel screw because you shouldn't be using anything other than the ones appropriated for that equipment.
Right. The only ones is like for the cover.
So do you think it's the cover that drilled all the way through? Or you think it's something that they like drilled something into the side, like they're putting a strap on the panel and drilled like to the side?
I hope it's the cover. I think it's the cover screw that nicked a wire. You think it's somebody drilled?
It's probably just a cover or pinching a wire. I don't know what it is. Let's take a look. I'm pretty sure that that's not a screw issue. That's a wiring issue. There's no need to have a service loop and 4-aught rated feeds. So this is actually a panel that's screwed to a piece of plywood. Almost looks like there's no way that this is going to be a final installation because you're not protecting your Romex unless it's in a different state or country where they have the Romex exposed.
It's got to be somewhere else. Like, I don't know if all this would be in there if they were just setting up temp power. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, a service loop for some Romex, some SC cable, I guess, but I still wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have looped in there. If we're preparing, we don't need service loops if you're doing it correctly. If you're putting it in right, you don't need service loops. So aluminum wire, we're going to put some antioxidant. I don't really see a lot of no-locks in there. You want to make sure that you got antioxidant in all your connections so that there's no problems. Right? This right here to me is planning for failure. When you plan for failure, it's going to happen. It's a lack of experience.
Obviously.
Right, obviously. Like, I wouldn't be worried about the screw so much as this sharp edge.
Yeah.
This sharp edge running down is sharper than that screw. That screw's got a blunt end on it. I know because we do electrical. That's what I do. Like, I've seen those screws a billion times. The only reason you need a loop here is if you plan on having something where you got to cut it out and move it in. Cut it and move, redo it. Yep. Cut it and redo it. If you're doing it right, you don't need a service loop.
If it's going to be permanent, yeah, you don't need it.
Unless he's trying to create some kind of voltage manipulation there and by creating his own coils. No. Number 5. How'd I do? So I love these apprentices, man. Like, I appreciate them trying to figure out how to get better and post for and being open to criticism because that's what it is, criticism. And that's all it is, criticism. Okay? You missed a spot. Your feed coming in is, you probably should have kept your feed coming in EMT, pulling, running those PVC up through over the warehouse. I wouldn't do that. This angle here from where this is coming in looks like it's just free floating. It doesn't look like it has any rhyme or reason. So you got everything else kind of bent nice, and we could have done a couple things.
It could have been a little tighter.
Could have done a couple things different. Probably could have landed those up there. No strap here. This looks longer than 3 feet. You need a strap within 3 feet. Is there a strap on those?
Yeah, it looks like there might be
on the wood.
Maybe one right there.
Yeah, okay. Got a strap there. You definitely need a strap on your service riser, your incoming feed.
Looking to the future, I probably would have got these a little bit closer to each other.
Yeah.
And if I was going to bring it down this right side, I probably would have went a little lower so that later there could have been extra ran in there.
Could come over, dude, we could tear these apart all day long because it's just different. Yeah, I would have planned a little bit different. Maybe put that feeder on one side and had everything else coming out the next side so you don't have to work around.
Is that
I don't know.
Feeder strapped anywhere?
No. That's what I just was talking about.
Oh, gotcha.
Pay attention, Marcus.
Hey, I thought you were just talking about it not being over.
I don't know what that is. That looks to me like it was an offset it's an offset and it looks like it's got a dog leg in it, but it looks like they did an offset and they were like, I'll just roll it over, it'll fit. I'll just roll it over, it'll fit. No, that shit should have been straight into the panel.
That's pretty bad.
Straight into the panel. If you can't bend conduit, use a mini. Yeah. Otherwise, get yourself a bender. I'd like to see where the next, where the next couplings are and where they strap that, because I don't see a strap coming on here. Do you see a strap there? So I don't know where the next strap is, but yeah, I mean, you're an apprentice. Can't really ask for more than that. So, well done.
I don't understand.
But still, no.
The bending wasn't great, but it was okay through this, right? That could have been closer, but it's not bad. But what happened here? Like, it almost makes me feel like somebody else did this.
You know what gives it away? It gives it away. Like these two offsets here, and this offset gives it away that this guy's an apprentice. 90s are easy. My grandma can bend a 90, and she's dead. I don't think he did this in one piece. Is there a coupling set right there? I can't tell. So if they did a coupling there, where's the other couplings? There's got to be missing couplings. Like this conduit seems like it's longer than 10 feet.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something we're missing.
Even that seems like it's longer than 10 feet. Maybe those kind of look like straps, but there's got to be couplings somewhere in this area.
This might be couplings, and these are the straps here. And then another set of straps here.
If that's the case, I don't think he's strapped close enough to this panel.
Definitely not. Keep getting better. Necklace fell and got caught between plug and outlet. Sparks flew, broke the necklace, and left this residue. Is outlet still safe? Number one thing my foreman told me, don't wear any fucking jewelry.
Don't wear jewelry.
Don't wear jewelry. I wear earrings, but like don't wear anything dangly. Don't wear a wedding ring, a metal wedding ring. Like I wear this rubber ring. It's non-conductive. It's not hard. And it's not really about the conductivity of a ring. It's about getting snatched or caught on something and then just tearing your finger off. Yeah, no jewelry, especially necklaces. Whoa, dude.
So what you do is you take a wet rag and you just wipe that black off of there. Right?
Gotta get Windex in the holes.
Yeah.
If a necklace lands in here, so what it did is there was space behind this and the plug.
Yep.
It went from hot to neutral. It went right over those. When you touch hot to neutral, sparks are gonna fly. You probably tripped the breaker, so nothing's working in there now. 10-to-1 says it's probably good to use. If you take a rag or wipe that off, it's probably just smoke.
When it arcs, it just leaves
when something explodes like that, it's an explosion. So it's like a black film of smoke that's just on there. You could probably wipe that off. It might be good as new with a couple little marks, but 10-to-1 says it's gonna work. I'd like to see the plug.
Right. Oh yeah.
Like the cord. I'd like to see the cord in. I'd like to see the plug because you give us a picture of the receptacle. I want to see the plug.
I'd probably replace this receptacle.
And that's what this is. This is a receptacle. This is the plug. If this is the call, what would we do? What would Josh do? WWJD. Ooh, we should start a hashtag. Is it already out there? WWJD. If you were to call us out, I would tell you exactly what I told you. Hey, this is what happened. Fell across the hot and the neutral. If we cleaned it up, it'd probably be all right. I would suggest just putting a new one in there just so you don't have to look at it or be reminded of that accident, right? And then we check the cord cap on your equipment for whatever it is. And if you needed us to replace that, we could do that as well. And yeah, this screw would either be this way or this way. But I like to run mine vertically versus horizontally. That's just how I like to have them.
Yeah.
But everyone in the whole house would be exactly the same. They'd all be vertical or they'd all be horizontal.
So are you saying that you would go around?
No.
Since you...
I'm there to fix the thing that you called me about, not to fix everything else. Unless you want to pay us for it. I mean, if that's what you want to do, I'll ask you when I'm done with this. All right, number 7. Stood in the way, don't know what to do. All right. It's probably a picture of me standing in the doorway, he doesn't know how to get on the job. I'm like this.
You got a stud finder on you?
He's a stud finder. He found me. Oh, stud in the way. Well, I mean, you got a pancake box. That's what you use for a stud. Is this where he wants it? Yeah. Well, you just cut that out and move that thing right there. I would probably tilt it a little bit more depending on what we needed to do, so I can get a screw on the other side, or put up another 2x4 here and drill a hole to get that MC through the back. But it looks like somebody ruined that MC by cutting the ground out of it. You might have to replace that MC cable.
Well, if he's coming down here, the MC, he might be okay because it's going to shorten that MC.
Is he coming down here, or is something else coming down here? This is a box. This is what you call a pancake box. It's a box that's created and developed to sit on the stud. What it is they make it, it's a ½ inch, typically a ½ inch, so that ½ inch drywall can come right up to the edge, and it doesn't stick out from the wall, and it's there for you to mount your fixtures. Typically, we see those for wall sconce, bathroom sconces, some kind of sconce, or ceiling fan, some kind of fixture, light fixtures. Some kind of fixture, because you're not putting a recept in that. All right, was this caused by a loose connection? So are we going to, what is this picture going to be? Is it going to be house burned to the ground?
Ooh.
Forest fire?
I hope not.
Like, is it, right, what are we looking at? Is it just a picture of flames? Like, loose connection. So what a loose connection does, well, let's look at it. You want to guess?
It'll arc, it starts heating up, and yep.
Whew.
Oh, okay.
Got an ABB cabinet, some control cabinet here. We're using some ABB parts. We got looks like L2 line 3-phase, line 1, line 2, line 3 coming up over here.
This is why everything has torque specs.
Sometimes those specs are a little lax, I think. I think you got to give it a little more sometimes.
Torque plus?
But only if the manufacturer suggests it. This is definitely something that can be caused by a loose connection, especially if the overcurrent protection is working. So overcurrent protection keeps things from getting hot from the amperage. So what happens is your breaker rating, let's say you have a 20 amp breaker, in this case is probably, this rating on this equipment is probably, looks like 200 amp. What's the size on that wire? I can't tell. Let's say we got a 200 amp rated wire here. If you get over that rating for a long period of time, that wire is only rated for so many amps, so it will start to heat up and start to melt and cause issues like this. But what's going to happen is that rating on the breaker will trip before any damage can occur to the wiring itself. So that's how we have overcurrent protection devices for that reason, to keep all the wiring safe in your house, because your wiring runs through your home, and if those were getting hot and melting, then we've got real big issues. So what it does is it stops the load from demanding any more power, keeping that thing. So if this overcurrent protection device was doing its job, then this wouldn't happen just from that issue. And from looking at where it's happening, because you could have, if the overcurrent protection was broken and there was nothing there and it just melted there, that could be just an overload itself. But this here tells me it's a terminal point. 99.9% of all electrical fires come from a termination point that doesn't have a good connection.
Yeah. You can see it started melting the wire even down here from the inside. Well, yeah. It's hot. It's hot, and it's been hot for a long time. Covers are on the equipment, and you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know, right,
until something happens down the line, or you start to smell something burning. So I would say, yes, this was a loose connection. Yeah. You want to make sure that you're torquing those things down, getting a solid connection. Anytime you get a loose connection, and we do this for a lot of commercial clients of ours, annually they have infrared reporting testing goes around. They go around and they shoot these they pull covers off, and they look for hot spots. And we get those reports, and we know what to do once we have those reports in hand. But typically, it's a loose connection. If somebody got in here, before this started to heat up, and just tighten it down on a maintenance basis once a year, once every year or every other year or something, just checking connections would keep that thing from happening.
Yep. And it might have been a failure in this, right? It could have been like tightened down, and the connection point just didn't push in the way that it was supposed to. It could have been that too. But you kind of have to look for that, make sure that everything's making a good connection once you're done with it.
Right. Definitely want to test it. And then that's it for this week. So stay tuned for more on upcoming episodes.